And with that, we are joined as always by Will is in the building, standing a nice. It's Tuesday. What's tonight? Today we stand a nice 6'4", 235, feeling good about life.
Oh
We
man,
got the
look at
Red
that.
Sox hat on, ready for baseball season.
Ecstatic.
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 Oh man. Um, so as we normally do, how I start the show off, I'm gonna let you decide if you think I'm crazy or not. So Chris Finch yesterday come out and says, "Big game, Timberwolves, Thunder," and basically says, "Yo, OKC's doing a bunch of flopping. They commit a lot of fouls and complain about the way SGA plays, et cetera, et cetera." And we've heard that before, and we know superstars get preferential treatment. I make the argument at the beginning of the show that fans don't really care so much who gets the call, but it's the fact of the no call. So I think when you have someone like SGA on that team who plays similar to James Harden or Luke or some of these other guys, but when you also have Lou Dort playing on the same team and it feels like he's damn near running people over, and yeah, you can't put two hands on Shy. It's like I think that's where the actual issues. It's not so much that SGA is getting to he gets the free throw line the second most of any player in the league besides Giannis. I think it's the fact they can play this unique set of physical defense that other teams just aren't allowed to play.
Yep, I agree.
Like, because I used to always think because it's crazy too because Jokic doesn't shoot that many free throws even though he's a big man, and yet SGA like Giannis it makes sense. I think Giannis has averages most in the league. He's a little above 11, but that kind of makes sense with the way he plays. SGA is at 8.8, but I also do think it's weird, and I want your opinion on this. OKC, and this is what the defenders will say, they shoot the second least free throws as a team. Like SGA damn near takes 50% of their free throws as a team. Um, what I guess is your thought on just like that style of play, the issues with like, oh, you're allowed to play defense one way, but the other team's not allowed to play defense on your guys. What are you feeling?
Mm. I mean, it's tricky. Like, I mean, as far as how I feel about it, I mean, we've talked about like I guess the James Hardens, the Lucas, like me and you have both talked about kind of how we feel about that style of play in general. But it's also like I mean, James Harden has been going on for damn near 10 years. Like you kind of know what to expect. Like so, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like one of those things where like even if you don't agree with it, you know the way the game is called these days.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, and I mean, and sometimes it requires your star player to be, the star player on the opposite team needs to be more aggressive to kind of force the ref's hand. And I mean, even, and he is, one of the best when it comes to one of the best guards when it comes to attacking the basket. But I think he also, and I don't know where, I mean, he takes a lot of threes also. And I mean, his 3-point percentage is up there. I think last time when I looked a few weeks ago, it might have been close to like 40%.
Oh
So
yeah, no, he's having a career
he
year from three.
yeah, so he is shooting the three ball really good, but if you're not attacking the same way Shea is attacking, to kind of force their hand on the other end of the ball, it's
Uh,
hard to kind of complain about it because it's like if he gonna get those calls, you being Anthony Edwards, you need to force them to make those calls on the other end.
no, it's valid. Speaking of Anthony Edwards, just kind of popped in my head. I think I understand, and this is not very sports centric, but so Anthony Edwards asked all throughout All-Star Weekend, like, do you think you could be the guy, like the face of the league guy? And I know you and I have talked about it, and Tony have talked about like, oh yeah, he should be the guy the NBA wants to promote. I also know a little about Ant Edwards, and we all do his personal life and the way that he maybe talks or handles himself in certain situations. And I'm like, okay, I get it. If I'm him, I maybe don't want to be the face of the league and be like on every single sports show every single morning. He's what, 24, 23, 24? And he's doing stuff, he's doing regular young guy shit. And so that's not exactly something you want, going like having Shannon and Stephen A going back and forth kind of deal. So I'll ask you, do you get it why he doesn't want to be the face of the league, or do you still kind of wish like secretly like, man, like yeah, I get it, but like fuck that shit, we still need you the kind like you the perfect person to elevate to that spot.
No, I get it. I definitely get it. Like, I mean, aside from being the talking point of all the sports shows and all of that, it's like it does come with a responsibility. And I mean, of course, no matter what, you represent the NBA. That goes for every player that's in the league. But when you're the face of the league, like everything is going to be highlighted. And I mean, LeBron is a tough act to follow. Steph Curry is a tough act to follow as far as being the face of the league, not having no like smut on their name outside of basketball.
Yeah.
So I get it from that perspective, but I also think like, unfortunately for Anthony Edwards, it ain't really his choice. like, you don't come in saying I want to be the face of the league. That's just kind of what happens. Like,
Yeah.
so it's not something you can really pick and choose. So now you either need to embrace it or I can't remember who I heard say it, but it's kind of like you need them, but it's like you can't like say you don't want to be that, but then also take up all the commercials. You want to be in all the commercials. You got one of the best up and coming
Yeah.
shoes and all of that stuff. And not saying that that's like the people who you are in business with, it benefits them for you to be the face of the league. So Adidas, that
Mm-hmm.
benefits Adidas. The Sprite commercials or whoever you're doing commercials for, that you being the face of the league benefits them. And I mean it benefits you too, of course, financially, but I just don't. I mean, and I'm sure at some point he's gonna realize like it's probably not his choice,
Yeah.
unless you're gonna go completely to being just. I mean, almost like how Kevin Durant was. You just gonna play basketball and that's it. But it's like if you want to be vocal and you want to do all those things, I don't think like Kevin Durant. And everybody always says like, oh, Kevin Durant didn't have to do it. It's like it wasn't Kevin Durant's choice. Like LeBron James was in the league.
The
Like
facts.
Kevin Durant didn't have a choice on whether he would or wouldn't be the face of the league because LeBron James and Steph Curry were there.
No, that's super valid. And that's actually so Ant and KD obviously over the Olympics. They're like Ant basically came out and said like you can't get him to say nothing negative about KD. Like that's his guy. That's
Mm-hmm.
the dude he models game after. Um, and so it makes sense. It was like KD does have that. If in the hypothetical world where LeBron doesn't exist, KD is obviously that great where he would have been in consideration. Um, but KD doesn't have that kind of personality or that kind of style. Like, and there's only been truthfully, and I think people get messed up. There's like 8 faces of the league ever. Like you go all the way back. You want to go Bill Russell, Wilt, fine. You got when it really became dominant was like Magic Bird, obviously Michael. Then you damn near go Michael to Shaq. Like as great as Hakeem was in the 90s, like Hakeem was never looked at as the face of the league. Um, and then yeah, Shaq, then however you want to split it up, Kobe to LeBron to Steph's kind of in there. It's him and Bron kind of going back and forth. But so face of the league, there's just not that many of them.
No, it's not. And I mean, and that don't take away like sometimes you can be the face of the league and not be the best player in the league. Like you can, if you're a
Facts.
top, you might be a top 3 player in the league. You can be the
Mm-hmm.
face of the league. That like I mean, and there's a lot of people who want to argue that there was a point KD was the best player in the league, but he was never the face of the league.
No, 1,000%. You
Um,
just
It's a point where a lot of people say Giannis is the best player in the league or Jokic. I mean, a lot of people have been arguing him being the best player in the league over the last 3 years or so, and he isn't the face of the league. Like, so that don't mean you got to be the best player in the league, but you got to be top 5, maybe top 3, and you need to be as marketable as they come.
no, it's a fact. There's again, Tim Duncan was never in consideration for face of the league. And there's multiple points in his career you could argue, like, yeah, Tim Duncan's the best player in the game. He just didn't talk. And because he was in San Antonio, wasn't a big market, all that kind of stuff adds up into it. Um, Luca plays the Mavs tonight. I'm not obviously, we was kind of talking about this. I'm not the biggest Luca guy. I do think Luca is going for damn near 50. Like, I think there is going to be, if you are going to try to, because they basically, when they kicked you out, they said, look, out of shape, not as competitive as we want. And I argued yesterday, I'm like, look, I think there is an argument that if you truly don't think, as crazy it looks to the outside world, like Luca is that guy, because if you're Dallas, your real competition is OKC, because they're great now and they're going to be great going forward. It's the Celtics. They're great now. They're going to be great going forward. And then pick your choice on who you think is going to be the next team. Maybe it's the Houston's going to turn into that, but one of these younger teams, because that's Luka's actual timeline. His timeline's not lined up with Giannis or lined up with Jokic. And so I could understand that. I also do think, though, now as we're a few weeks
well,
removed,
well, real quick, I want to say, like, I would take under 40 on that.
Oh, you would take under 40?
1,000%. Not saying I think he's gonna have a good game,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's just gonna be a game. Like I don't think, like
Nothing
I
super
don't,
crazy.
yeah. So I would take under 40.
I think he's gonna try to shoot them out the building. I would say like my
I think he
best.
might try to shoot them out the building and shit. He might shoot them out the game.
That first quarter is going to be telling because I think he's going to want to play all 12 of the first quarter and try to get like if there was ever he's trying to get 20 this quarter or trying to get even more than that, like
Yeah, I mean,
this
you
would
want
be
to
the
start
game.
off hot so you can coast the rest of the game. You ain't got to try to get your numbers up later.
Yeah. Um but I do think Dallas is in like probably the toughest position. This is why I could defend you trading Luka. I just can't ever defend like Anthony Davis and one pick being the return because you got to deal with dude for 10 plus years theoretically. And you did all of the quote unquote like not supposed to do like, oh, if you trade a star player, like trade him out of the division or trade him out of conference. Like, you trade him to the Mavericks that's in the trade him to the Lakers that's in the conference. Theoretically, in 2 or 3 years, if Kyrie's not who he is and AD is older and he still has injury issues, like this dude could be stopping you, or even if you were turning into a great team, Luke and the Lakers could be stopping you from potentially getting to titles. Like they could be
I
knocking you
mean,
out in
and
the
I
playoffs.
think, but and this is just me, and and we don't know when LeBron is going to retire or anything like that. But say LeBron decided this was his last year.
Mm-hmm.
What does that make the Lakers?
A worse version of Dallas. Whatever
Like
people
a
thought
little
of
worse or a lot
Dallas,
worse? I mean, because we know, and of course, like Anthony Davis has health concerns, but we know he ain't retiring.
in my opinion, it would be so the Lakers are going to be as good as you think Austin Reeves is. Now, I think Austin Reeves is fine as when he's like your third and some
I
nights your
think Austin
fourth
Reeves is a
option.
great third option. I think as soon as you try to put him in a position to have to do more than be a third option, or
That's
like
that's what's gonna be a struggle.
when you can put the third best defender on Austin Reeves, I think he'll be good. I think if you're in a situation where like if the Lakers are playing the Celtics, and I don't know the numbers against like where they have 3-4 guys who can defend out on the floor at once. Like I don't know what his stats are against Boston, of course, but like I don't see that being a thing.
No,
Shout
yeah,
out to
he's
Austin Reeves, but I mean LeBron always LeBron always have like one of those players who ain't really supposed to be that good, but they play, they better than what they are. And I felt the same way about Alex Caruso, and I like Caruso a lot. I think Caruso is
yeah,
a pretty good two-way player, a better defender than he is, on offense.
no, 1,000%.
But I
That's
mean, that's
that's
kind of, but like even I think I seen Gil's Arena, they were having a debate on who was better between Austin Reeves and Bradley Beal.
see, I think
I think Austin Reeves is. I think without LeBron James being a Laker, I don't know if Austin Reeves averages the points that he averages.
that's
Like
where I think
I
it gets
like
out
I
of
can
hand.
I can see Bradley Beal doing what Austin Reeves does before I can see Austin Reeves doing what Bradley Beal did with the Wizards, averaging 30. Then I think didn't he win a scoring title?
I don't remember if he won. I remember he did over 30. I don't remember if he won the scoring
I
title
can't
that
remember if he
year.
won a scoring title that year, but he was over 30. Like, and I
Yeah,
don't see I like drop him
Austin Reeves
on
can't do that.
wherever whatever team you want to drop him, whoever the worst team in the league is. I don't see him doing that.
Not 1,000%. Um,
And he one of
the
those players that's like, he's great for the Lakers, like, but I don't know if he would be the same player anywhere else. And it's a lot of players people have those conversations about. So
oh, absolutely.
it's not a bad thing like that you in a system that works for you. That's not a negative.
No, and those are again, he's the easiest example to go to, but it's like
Draymond.
yeah, Draymond's entire career. Like we understand, like yeah, you gonna be in the Hall of Fame. You a 4-time champ. Like you deserve all that shit. We also all firmly believe if he was on one of the 29 other teams, he's not Draymond. He don't have all the ads. He don't have the podcast. He was turned into a star because of team success.
But we
Um,
also don't know. I mean, and we also don't know. Like, I think a lot of times we probably underestimate players' abilities to adapt. Like, because a lot of most of the times, these players are coming from being like the best players on their team at some point, like, whether it was
Yeah.
college or whatever the case is. So it's like, it's really more of a testament to these guys that are great role players, though, to be able to maybe come in and adjust,
Oh, after being like the
like
guy and then
after
adjusting to
being the
being.
guy. And I think that's the problem. Even when, when you see a lot of these guys come in who were looked at as they were supposed to be stars, like that year when RJ, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish, and Zion all came in,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't even know where Cam Reddish plays at now. And
I think he's damn near out the league or on like a
but
one-year
that's what I
contract.
mean, like, because everybody can't adapt and adjust to being a role player. So it's, or like even a guy like Patrick Beverly who came, he coming up, especially, just in Chicago and everything, one of the best players from the city coming up around the time Derrick Rose was coming up and all of that. And and
Yeah.
and then you get to the league, like you dropping 40, 50 points, and you get to the league and they look at you as just a defender. And being able to adapt to that is, it's a testament to the player. So, you know,
No, 1,000%. That's no, that's valid. That's a good point. That doesn't get, and I know myself, like that doesn't get brought up enough. That ability just, yeah, you come from a position
like
of,
if you look at most of these like some of these role players, and probably go back at some point, they were the best player on their team. They probably they might have been averaging 20 plus in college, and now they 6, 7 points a game, and they three and D guys now.
Tyson Chandler to like kind of an older player, but Tyson Chandler, when he came out of high school, averaged 50 points his senior year. And like you would never look at Tyson Chandler. He was just a
But
lob
when he
threat
got
in
when he
the
got to the
NBA.
league, he was a lob threat and a defender, like a rim
Yeah.
protector, lob threat and a rim protector.
Yeah. Like that's, yeah,
So
no, that
and
adjustment is
but
crazy.
and I think the adjustment for a lot of big men probably come easier when you always been a big man versus like
Being like a lead
guards
guard.
and stuff like that. And then, I think we might have talked about it on here before, but I know, like, a lot of times, like, what I realized, like, even when I was in school and stuff, like, you had, for my high school, our center, the guy who played center for our high school might have been 6'7", 6'6".
Yeah.
And it's like when you go to college, like, you need to be a forward or a shooting guard or something, but your whole life they've been putting you in the post and, telling you got to be a big man. So now when you get to college, because
You're not
you've always been
ready
the
for it.
tallest player, you don't have any type of guard skills.
Yeah.
So, and I know
No,
we got sidetracked, but
no, that's good. I like those kind of convos. But my next question I was going to follow up with is my last question here is, so Channing Frye had a rant yesterday, and it was about the nostalgia of the NBA. And it was based on about like, look, we're not even comparing dudes no more to like who their contemporaries or like take it, let it like enjoying this era. We're just every conversation is going like, obviously with LeBron, it goes back to Michael. With KD is getting ranked now, Steph's getting ranked. Like, okay, where are you in like not your contemporaries? Where are you in like the top 10, top 20 list? And he's like, that's taking the fun out of the NBA for this era specifically. And I kind of agree with them, but I do think there is a two-way street as far as enjoying the game. That it's like the 3-point thing. Yes, I'm not saying that like missing a mid-range shot looks any better than missing a 3-point shot, but I do think even though there is more styles of play than we probably give credit to, I do feel like there's way less style of players because the game has been solved so much that, yeah, if you are like you just said a 3-and-D guy, I'm not going to really progress you much more than that. If you could play defense and you can stand in the corner, catch passes, shoot, or you can run back screens, like that's all I'm really going to ever ask you to do. I'm not going to have you like we have way less slashers, we have way less combo guards. Like there's dudes just get good at these one or two things, and that's pretty much all they do.
I don't even know, is a slasher in the league today still a thing?
Giannis,
Like, like no, but I was gonna say, like, as far as like the younger players, and of course Giannis isn't old by any means yet, but I mean he's been in the league for a while. But like, even you may even say call it Jimmy Butler, like a slash, like kind of a
yeah,
slashing type of player. But as far as like these new up and coming players, that's not.
it
It
was
ain't
Ant.
really. It ain't really a thing. What you say?
I said it was Ant, but even Ant the last year and a half has taken a lot more threes than he used to.
But even still, I mean, and part of that is being, I mean, I guess him being on the ball as much as he is and everything. And I mean, just the game as a whole. But yeah, when you think about all of that, it's not really a thing. But even to that point, so what RJ was saying, and I guess I want to make sure I interpreted it correctly.
what's the
So
line of nostalgia, I guess? Like, what is the point
well,
of like romanticizing what we watched because we thought that was basketball versus going, okay, this is different, but I'm not going to call all different better kind of deal. Like, where's that line of like what's fair in terms of nostalgia?
and I agree. I do agree with that. Like different isn't always better. And I think like and I know we've had the conversation before though. You can only rank people up against who they played against. Like the reason the game
Mm-hmm.
is where it's at, and you talk about these players being more skilled. Like the reason they're more skilled is because of what the players in the past did. Like they had to give you the template to be able to add.
Yeah.
So like when you're talking about like Kyrie Irving has the best handles ever, like we can say that today, but that may not be the case in 5 years and 10 years because he's the template now, and now you're gonna have somebody that can add to what he did. Like, and the rules are gonna
Mm-hmm.
change even more. So it's like, but then so it's like at that point you can't really compare the players of the past because he wouldn't be here without that. That's just the evolution. That's evolution, period. And
Not facts.
you can only compare these guys against who they played against. Like, yeah, you can say, oh, Kobe would have beaten Mike in his prime or something like that if that's how you feel, but that's only because he was able to watch Michael Jordan and add to what he took from Michael Jordan. Like Michael Jordan didn't watch Kobe and be able to add to his moves or something like that. So it's
No, 1,000%.
it's just the evolution.
No, that's valid.
Like
Again,
if I can watch your whole career and mimic everything you do and then say, let me add these X amount of things, like you should be better than me. Or like some
no.
people should be able to be like, I gave you the blueprint. Like I
Oh,
gave you all the tools, and all you got to do is say, okay, well, let me go add a few more.
no, 1,000%. That was what was made it's what made the beginning of the Warriors, I think, really fun is because you could see, and shout out to Popovich, um, health concerns, not sure if he's coming back, but you saw when that early variation of the Warriors, you saw what the Spurs were doing, but it was with a much younger team. It was with obviously Steph and Clay revolutionized shooting, being on the same team together. You got to see that. So you got to see that wasn't just nostalgia going like, man, I just missed the way the Spurs played. No, they took some of that, added onto it, brought in some new concepts, and they took over the league. I think,
They were like, it was like a merge of the Spurs and the Suns. Like when you talk about that ball
yeah,
movement of the Spurs and then that fast pace of the Suns, like, from that
1,000%.
7 seconds or less era. So it's like, to me, that was like a marriage of that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it was like, like they said before, it was jump shooting teams couldn't win a title. Now every team is a jump shooting team.
Yeah. And that's where I think like they're kind of my example of where I think nostalgia's got to like some of it's nostalgia and some of it's like no, I can tell the difference is that team took what the Spurs did, revolutionized it. There is now some teams who all they can do is we can run pick and roll. It's going to pass. Some teams literally never get the ball like past the free throw line on offense for like several possessions in a row, and it's just like I know we can't, but it feels like and looks like, oh, I can get four dudes together. But shit, we can go do this. We can all
Yeah,
sit there and pass the ball at the 3 point line. And
it's not a real like half court game anymore.
yeah. And so,
Like you really only see it become a half court game like in close games at the end of games. Like
yeah,
then they kind of that's when teams really start paying attention to shot selection and things like that. But like for the first 3 quarters,
it's pickup. It's pickup. And it's like,
1,000%. I don't even know. I can only imagine what these teams' playbooks look like these days. Like probably thin as shit.
cardio, cardio, and be ready to shoot. Like,
Yeah.
that's, oh man,
Like everything these days is shoot, drive and kick, pick
yeah.
and pop.
Yeah. No, it's infuriating. And my team's not even great. So, like, they're not the best example, but it was infuriating, like, seeing so many possessions in a row. This is where I had issues with CJ. Is there so many possessions where it's like, ball doesn't cross free throw line, and you just, like, kind of pass it on the 3 point line, shoot up a three. And I'm like, you got Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson are your two best players who are specifically at their best free throw line and down. I'm like, again, not comparing the caliber of player, but just for the example, like, the Mavericks never tried to run that fast of an offense when Dirk was their best player because their best offense was get Dirk the ball mid post and let him go to work. Melo's a perfect example. Melo's Nuggets teams, yeah, they always had pace and they were trying to be fast, but their best offense was still, we missed a couple of shots in transition. All right, let's slow it down, get Melo the ball, low block, let him go to work. Like even that variation in the game. And there's a lot of that doesn't happen. And again, I
But
don't
that's
consider
I
that.
think, but all of that is a result of the 3-point shooting. Because like if I miss 2 shots and they hit three threes,
That's
now it's like I mean, and we kind of talked about the casino before. Like you losing is like you trying to get
yeah,
your money back. Like you ain't gonna just walk away and say, okay, let me slow it down and get an easy bucket in the post. You trying to get back what you lost. Like I
no,
need
thousand
these threes
percent.
back.
Nah, 1,000%. Oh man. Appreciate you as always. We're gonna catch you Sunday at group chat and then we'll catch you back here next Tuesday. Appreciate it, bro.
No problem, man.